not, can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 25.
Okay, a second. All right, all in favor? All opposed? All right. We will move on to item 5. Item 5.1 is a presentation by, is it Abra Nusser? I apologize. Abra Nusser, project manager from Kimley-Horn. And we'll follow that up with discussion regarding the comprehensive plan update, including our role, the adoption process and timeline, in establishing a comprehensive plan advisory committee, public input, identifying stakeholders, and related matters. So, Abra, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chairwoman and members of the Commission. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Abra Nusser, and I am a Senior Project Manager with Kimley-Horn and working on your new comprehensive plan. So going to go through some highlights of the process this evening and what your role might be, and then happy to receive any initial direction from you all. Let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. So the role, can you go? There it goes. Okay, so our target with the comprehensive plan, there's lots of targets, but the first and foremost one is to update the vision that was established previously in the comprehensive plan, but a lot of growth and development has taken place. New people have moved here, other people have left, so it's really important to update that vision every 3 to 5 years. So that's one of the key goals of this plan. Economic development, figuring out what we want to see, how we want to see it, and figuring out how to make that happen. Character and vitality, so where we see character that is important to us or things that we want to preserve, really looking at strategies to do that, but also where there isn't any character, like undeveloped properties, what kind of things do we want to see in the future? And then preservation and regulatory foundation. It's very important that we have a vision and policy so that in the future when we make new ordinances or do rezoning requests, we really have a foundation that we're working from. So the role of a comp plan sets a vision for the community for the next 15 to 20 years. It establishes policies to manage growth and achieve the vision, including for rezoning requests. And then it provides a framework for other plans, improvements, investments, and budgetary decisions. So, like I said, it's time for an update. Last update was in 2016, and comprehensive plans should be updated every 3 to 5 years. City has experienced growth and development, and more is coming, and what do we want that to look like? Existing conditions and community sentiment have evolved based on new context, and we're going to do a community survey at the beginning, which really sets the foundation moving forward and sheds some light on what the community feels are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the community. So this is our project team. That's me on the left. I'll be your project manager. Jade Broadnax is Deputy Project Manager, and then we have Emily Drake, Jeff Whitaker, and Brad Lawnberger. Not pictured is Jake Gutekunst, and he will be involved as well. So got a full service team for you all. Anything that comes up from a design, infrastructure, planning perspective, we have that expertise on this team. So community engagement is the most important part of a comprehensive plan. A lot of people think it's other pieces, but really if you do the community engagement right, the plan writes itself. So we're going to have an interactive project website. It's going to be collaborative, and we're going to have engagements up throughout the process. People can go to this website to see the live project timeline where we are at any given time, and we can also post documents with each phase so that people can click on them and see them. For example, after we finish the community survey, we'll post the community survey report so everybody can see that. Social media is important to get people to the website, and also on the draft community survey, we have a question about communication preferences. So we'll see kind of what the pulse is of how people want to see communication moving forward just citywide. So the community survey will be available for 3 weeks. generally March through April, but next week I think is the last week in March, hoping to launch it sometime next week, and then have it up for 3 weeks. You may think that 3 weeks is not enough time. It is. People are either going to take it or they're not. So we see the response rate really take a dip. But we will post multiple times just to see if we can get more engagement. It'll cover strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges, and then topic-specific questions as well. I know council discussed the draft survey the other night, so we're working through that, and then we'll have a community survey report. So we'll have an in-person community forum after we do the community survey. We'll have a virtual community review of the draft concepts and highlights. So once we get to a stage where we're looking at the future land use plan or the draft mobility plan and that type of thing, we'll do a presentation and record it so people can view it anytime they want, and they can also scroll through it on the project website. We'll have up to 7 stakeholder meetings, 3 comprehensive plan advisory committee meetings. I know we're working on getting that established as well. And then 3 P&Z meetings, including the public hearing, and 1 tonight. And then 4 city council meetings. Sorry, that leftover bullet. The advisory committee goes by the affectionate name of Cpac, and it'll be 9 to 13 members. And just talking through potential options. It can have any number of makeup, but right now we're talking about members from P&Z, members from EDC, and then members from the general public. So I think we can circle back to that. 3 general meetings of the advisory committee, so it's not a big time commitment. We do have the first meeting kind of tentatively scheduled, and the Cpac will give policy direction at key points in the process. And attendance is really important because, we only have those 3 meetings, so they're really crucial in the process. And looking for level heads and respectful and solution oriented. So the P&Z role, as I stand before you, is to attend the community forum. That's very, very important. So if we can all mark our calendars once we get that date going, you can kind of help serve that ambassador role in the community and make sure that people know about the community forum and attend so that you can also see what's happening there and hear some of the conversations and participate in them as well. And then provide direction at 3 key points in the process, including tonight. Share feedback at any stage with me or with staff, and they can get it to me or the project team so that we can kind of incorporate it and we don't wait till the end. And then last but not least, once we get to the end of the process, since you will have been involved from day one, championing the plan and recommending approval. So the community forum would be in person, barring any unforeseen pandemics or worsening of this one. So we would generally refine the results that we see in the community survey. We like to wait until after the community survey to really structure the community forum and which stations will be there, just depending on the results of what come out of it. If we see something that needs more refinement or that we need clarification on or discussion on, that's one of the stations that would be at the community forum. Again, we will publish on social media, and it's tentatively scheduled for May. So the community snapshot would be one of our initial deliverables, and it's just a kind of interim deliverable looking at the study area of McLendon-Chisholm, the market factors, brief history, and current plans, hierarchy and relevance, how's everything fitting together, and then existing maps and analysis. I do want to point out for the study area map that the ETJ would be included in the study area. So even though Texas really restricts cities from doing a whole lot of things on annexation anymore, we really do want to set a vision for what those areas might look like should they come in. So that would be included in the study area. Come on. Here we go. Here are the plan topics initially. Sometimes we move these around, reorganize them, or sometimes another one comes up, but economic vitality, land use and design, mobility and connectivity, infrastructure, resources and energy, city services and facilities, including a Parks and Rec component, and then implementation and monitoring. These aren't separate master plans, so it's not going to be like a wastewater master plan in the infrastructure element, or it's not going to be a standalone Parks and Recreation study in the city services and facilities element, but it'll go at a high level and then really set forward some initial actions for the city to take. So here's our tentative timeline. We are getting ready to launch the community survey here at the beginning of the process. We'll be doing stakeholder interviews March through May, kind of as soon as we can get them scheduled. Sometimes it's hard to wrangle one or two and they linger past the others, but really looking to do those at the beginning of the process as we head into Community Forum 1 so that we can that was expert level right there. Thank you. Do I need to press power again or no?
It's on.
Okay. Okay. So we'll have a community forum tentatively scheduled for May. And then we'll be looking at Is this thing on? No, I'm kidding. So looking at draft plan this summer, and then concepts and highlights in July, really starting to refine in July and August, and then adoption by September. Now, if you notice, there's a little statement at the bottom right, and it's flexibility to allow for changes in engagement just due to COVID. We just never know what will happen these days. So that's our little statement to just say that we're going to be flexible with you and flexible with the world. So if things take a little bit longer to get scheduled, just realize, we are doing what we can on our side, but we really want to go at the pace that's right for you guys. But this September date has been established for the process, so as long as we don't experience any delays on the city side, that's what we're aiming for. And then our next steps are to create Cpac, compile that list of stakeholders, and prepare and launch the project website with the community survey. And with that, I'd be happy to circle back to any of those things that you guys want to talk about more or take any questions.
Thank you. I guess we can go around and ask questions. I have one quick one. How are we launching the survey? Is it only online, or what?
We always have the ability to print out the surveys. We don't get anybody who ever wants one, but maybe there's one or two that might. Most people want the Survey Monkey, so the online format is the main format, but we will provide hard copies as well.
I was at a meeting, I was at the meeting on Tuesday, and I guess the Trudy resident voiced the concern about the questions that, the survey actually had a copy in my hand. And so were you able to speak with her or whatever?
She did. She emailed, and we exchanged emails. I tried to snag her today and wasn't able to connect. So I know that we will do that soon. I did read in her email the questions she was looking to include. So I can talk about those now with you, or just.
Did you modify what we had provided for the city council?
I did not. No. And so just in general, so you all are up to speed too, we always survey basic demographics so that we can do a cross-tab analysis on any of the questions. So for example, if we wanted to see level of satisfaction for people with kids in the household. We could match the questions up and see if there's some sort of correlation. We want to ask what their role is in the city. So if they're a resident, if they're a business owner, that type of thing. Levels of satisfaction. So there's overall level of satisfaction, then level of satisfaction with different services that the city offers, and then levels of satisfaction with different amenities that the city offers. And then we want to understand communication preferences, not only for the comprehensive plan, but for you guys moving forward over the next couple of years. And then open-ended SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We really don't typically include any other questions besides that because we want the SWOT analysis to do its job. So any things that are coming out of that SWOT analysis we'll be able to grab. We tag each open-ended comment and we analyze that for themes. So then once we get those themes, we can structure the community forum to have any sort of refinements that we need to work through.
One question I had was, as I was sitting in the office the other night, you provide a survey and that's great to get a certain level of response. So you have, these are kind of broad questions, and you're going to have other opportunities to come back and refine something. One of the goals you mentioned the other night was changing the ordinances from 1.5 acres to 1 acre. I guess there was some concern about a different survey. And so I understand that your purpose is really kind of broad in scope here at this point, and then you're kind of refine it as we go along with other opportunities for involvement between you guys, providing a forum for that, and the public.
That's correct.
And you have to really done the real. You've done this before. What's the response? Is the response taper off from the public as a general rule? Is it heightened? And if you have multiple forums and multiple opportunities, so by the fifth opportunity for the discussion, do you find the exchange between the community and city council or the city, does it degrade? Does it lessen? Does it amplify? Or does it depend on the community?
So one of the things that we're really passionate about is providing different methods of engagement. So it's not apples to apples throughout the process. So there's only going to be one survey that's online for everybody to take. And so that response rate is not going to be comparable to the number of people that would show up at an in-person community forum or the number of people that would be involved on the Cpac. So there's different ways to engage throughout the process, and we try to structure that so that even if someone doesn't engage with everything, they're engaging with one or two or maybe three of those options. For response rate on the community survey, we like to see a minimum of 2% of the population. That might sound low, but it's statistically significant. So as we're seeing our population number, we need to keep that in mind, that the population of McLendon-Chisholm is not very high, and we would be looking at least 2%, but sometimes we get a lot more than that. It just depends on the city. But I hope that answers your question. We like to see the amount of engagement that we feel is appropriate for each of those items. So if we got 2 people at the community forum, we would be concerned with that turnout. Now there's also a pandemic, so we like to make sure that things are properly structured, but we like to see a certain number of engagements on the website. So if we're not seeing enough engagement there, we would look at Facebook posts, but boosting them, right? So paid advertisements. So there's different levels that we're looking at different stages.
Have you considered doing a community forum also using, recognizing that there are still a number of folks that haven't fully vaccinated, there is still concern, and I'm even thinking about families that have other obligations where it's difficult for them to step away, they have children responsibilities, etc. So is that an option that we can look at?
We have done 100% virtual now. We can say that. We've done a comprehensive planning process 100% virtually, so we can look at those options. What we can't do with the budget that we have is duplicate virtual and in-person at every step with the budget we have. So if we wanted to do virtual community forum instead of in-person, we can do that. And we've done it before very successfully. So it can still be very meaningful and fun. But it's really up to the direction of the city if y'all want to do in-person or virtual.
And how will the community be informed if the survey is available?
Um,
Is it only a postcard or a post on the website? How does it get that information?
What we have proposed right now is a press release, social media posts, and then there will be the project website is where they will find the survey. So we're looking at the press release and mainly social media to drive traffic to the website. If the city has any other modes of communication, we'd be happy to provide text or content for that, but that's what we know is available to us. It would be on the city website. Yeah. Yeah, but
Could we
if,
put it in like the Blue Ribbon News at least? Yeah.
so typically there's some media contacts that that press release can be forwarded to. So happy to receive any of those. But what I do want to emphasize with this, and you saw it on one of the slides, the best, most effective form of communication is word of mouth and sharing on elected and appointed officials' Facebooks. It is the most effective. So if you share it to your personal Facebook or any groups, local groups on Facebook that you might be active in, or if you're not active on Facebook, if you have a quilting club or something like that, that is the most effective form of outreach, time and time again.
With the in-person meetings, and I'm thinking of text-that meetings, but as she was saying, not everybody's going to want to come, but is that something that will, like the material you'll post to the website, I assume, that is presented at the public forum, and then would there be an opportunity to comment based on, and again, I'm thinking of the text-that process, so that's where my mind goes, but yeah, I'm just thinking, for 20 days or 30 days or whatever after that public forum, there's the opportunity for people like myself, if it's on a Tuesday, that can't be there, I could go there and look at it and comment.
So we like very interactive community forums. So it's not going to be all open house where you just go in and there's boards. Now we will have boards, and it will be kind of around the room where you go in order, but there's also stuff in the middle, most likely, and we like to have conversations and whatnot. We have a couple of different ways we can structure it. We can do a presentation at the beginning and then let people circulate, or we just let them circulate. Since COVID has happened, we haven't been doing the presentations just to kind of stagger the flow and help people feel more comfortable, and we don't have to worry about spacing of chairs. So that's probably what I would recommend still, just because we're early in the vaccination process. But just letting people come and go and interact in those engagements. So that being said, again, not duplicating both formats. So we wouldn't really have a large PDF for them to scroll through, but we do plan on having some interactive engagements on the website, like mapping, interactive mapping, and like an idea wall for big, bold idea, some stuff that they can participate in, but not looking at duplicating both formats.
Any other questions? Sure, any other questions?
Is it possible to get a copy of this presentation?
Absolutely, yep. I will send it to Lisa and she can forward it. Next week is the goal. Yep. We need to connect with the council member that had the comments on the questions, and that would be the last remaining step to my knowledge. I believe the other council members were comfortable with the questions. So those are the only remaining items I'm aware of.
And then the website will be linked to our city website, so you'll be able to
Working on getting a unique domain name right now. Planmc.com is like $3,500 to buy, so that's not happening. But we'll find something that works. So. I think it's like an MC. All the ones with MC in the title, like it's, yeah.
So we gotta change our city name. That's what I heard say.
Yeah, I thought about planm-c.com and then it just got weird, but we'll find one.
No, that makes sense.
So in terms of, can I, maybe for direction, so in terms of the planning process, is there something that would make this planning process a success for you all that you really want to see by the end? Something in particular?
I think one of my biggest concerns is, and this is part of the process, but, we've been getting lately a lot of zoning cases that are, and I know spot zoning is a bad word, so I don't want to call it spot zoning, but my focus is on that future land use map, and because that directs, us and what from this chair, that's what's important, because we've just really struggled in some cases with, do we really want to change a small pocket of zoning or of commercial over here, and, so getting that future land use map pinned down as quickly as possible, as we continue to see zoning cases is I think from my perspective, the most important thing to planning and zoning.
And to partner with what you said, because I think that was beautifully said, is it actually is incredibly disrespectful with these developers coming in just completely ignoring our plan. I don't know if they feel that it's so outdated, it's no longer relevant. So for me, knowing that this is timely, having the confidence to sit up here and say, I know confidently this is not what our citizens are looking for. And that's been a little hodgepodge because, again, we've grown so much in just 2 years, much less since the last time this survey was done. And again, all of us are here because we embrace that our city needs to grow. We just want to have a vision of what that needs to look like, and we have to hear it from the citizens of the city. So for me, I'm a little concerned about the survey only being through social media. We have a number, we have the whole range of demographics here, and not everybody is social media. They're not tagged onto their phone 24/7. So that press release and hitting blue ribbon, which is our primary newspaper, we do still have a large number of our residents that utilize that. So I really want to put that out there that social media cannot, and I know you're soliciting how do you want to be communicated with, but that was my concern with even getting the survey to them to receive that. So those are some pivotal points for me.
Yeah, and doing that press release is only good if you distribute it right to the right people.
Yes.
So as long as y'all have a contact, we will make sure they get it.
Aren't all of our citizens on RCH Water? Could we put an insert in their water bill? They all get that.
I've actually got a note to ask them that. Traditionally, they have not worked with us on things like that in the past. I'm also
And we've
going
seen
to ask
that.
Jason with the CWD. I'm not sure what the billing cycle is. I know we just do quarterly. I'm not sure if one's coming up or not. But if
Yeah,
we
they're
can get
just
it out
quarterly.
there by
Yeah.
other means, we certainly will.
The other thing I was thinking when I was thinking of RCH Water and our boil water notice, they put signs out in major locations around the city in front of large neighborhoods. And maybe we could just get, 30 signs and put them in major subdivisions around just so people could see them. Just to get the word out.
You wouldn't be the first.
It'd be a pretty low-cost way to do it, rather than, if you look at that versus mailing a postcard to everybody, I don't know which is going to cost more.
Yeah.
The signs might end up costing more than postage for the postcard.
We actually haven't found that postcards are effective. People trash them. Pshoo! They think they're an ad, especially if we put color on them. But I worked in a city about a year or two ago, in the before times, You just get on Amazon and Google like political yard signs blank, and they're very cheap. And Cpac went and put them where they knew people would. So that was kind of fun. But
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. I think I paid like $150 for 50 signs. It's not that expensive.
it's even cheaper than that.
And you get volunteers to put those up. yourself.
Yep.
Exactly.
And enough of us have run campaigns that we know where to put them. So,
Exactly.
So
You can tell us where they're effective.
one thing I would caution though is probably like 10 signs, because every sign that gets put out, you also have to pick back up. So, just throwing that out there.
yeah, you just make whoever puts them out is responsible for picking them back up. So that's easy. Yeah.
One and done, well, two and done.
Abra, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
We have had developers lately approaching us, and our comp plan is outdated, and it's been a struggle to know what to do in the meantime. I'm curious as to what other cities do as time passes. Do they amend their comp plan in between adoptions of updates? Do they do minor tweaks here and there, or do they just hold hard and fast to it until the next update?
That's a loaded question. Okay, so there are multiple schools of thought on this. Some cities do it in a way that I probably wouldn't prefer, and they treat the future land use plan as zoning. So developer comes in, the proposed zoning is inconsistent with the future land use plan. So, okay, now you've got to run 2 submittals, one to rezone and one to do a future land use
Has that
amendment.
happen? Yep.
Yeah, so it's very frequent. But knowing what goes into a comprehensive planning process, I professionally feel that the future land use plan should stand until it's amended in a comprehensive way.
I think so too.
Now, that being said, state law doesn't say that the colors have to match. State law says that your zoning has to be in general conformance with the comprehensive plan. So if you feel that a rezoning request meets, the spirit and intent and, the goals of the comp plan, but it doesn't match the color on the map, it's still okay to approve, and you don't actually have to amend the future land use plan in that instance. So that's my opinion, is it should be done in a comprehensive way, but for that to work, you have to keep it up to date and relevant. So if you're experiencing high growth, you need to do it every 2 to 3 years. And if it's just regular growth, 3 to 5. But that's the only way it works, is if you keep it up to date. But there are other ways to do it. Just throwing that out there.
We've made some minor adjustments, transportation plan, future land use plan, a handful of times since I've been here, relatively minor, but now we're getting hit with the bigger questions about the density.
Yeah, and when your comprehensive plan is out of date, then it puts city staff in a bind because, there might not be funding for a whole comprehensive plan update. So then you're looking at, okay, what do we do? So compromised
We have
position.
Educated residents, they're coming in, they're quoting what our comprehensive plan says right now, and reminding us that, these are exceptions that are being presented, and it's just challenging. And again, I think, for all of us, we are part of this. We volunteer our time because we believe in it. We want to support our city's growth. We need growth, but it has to be healthy, and it has to be in line with the broader residents. I mean, we're just a small little group here, and to hear that, and then to really feel confident when we have a developer coming up, you know what? The spirit of what they're asking for is in line with what we know our residents are currently asking for. Or, wow, that's really off base and not so much. And it's just, as I shared earlier, because it's so outdated, because we've had so much growth, it's just the right time. So I'm really looking forward to this process. So.
That's great. And I can talk about land use and planning for hours, but I'll do one further. Future land use plans of old are paint by number, right? Red is retail, yellow is low density residential. We've really started straying away from that in our practice and going towards more of what do we want this area to function like? What kind of design are we looking for? What kind of intensity? So not necessarily prescriptive, it has to be retail. We're looking at this area as generally commercial, maybe a little bit of residential, but here's the character and the intensity and the scale that we're looking for, so that it's not so rigid, and we'll figure out what's best for McLendon-Chisholm. Sometimes a community is more comfortable with that very prescriptive future land use, so we'll have to kind of see what's best and what you guys feel comfortable with too.
Abra, may I? Are cities moving away from minimum lot size and going more towards like the overall density of an area?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can establish density standards for your future land use designation. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a trend, is what she's asking, I think.
We're kind of, ours is, we're pretty focused on the 1.5 acre minimum or, other minimums throughout the city. And sometimes I do wonder, is that just too rigid? And it's not my place to say one way or the
Yeah.
other, but sometimes I look at other cities' plans just to see what they're doing. And they've got a little bit more flexibility built into that. Not that somebody can come in and completely change it all and have so much flexibility that it really changes the plan. But if you kind of look at the overall density of a geographic area, whatever maybe a developer walks in the door with, seems like there's more flexibility than just that hard and fast minimum size.
Yeah. So we have some really useful visuals where you can have, 5 dwelling units per acre in one layout and 5 dwelling units per acre in another layout, and they're completely different. But if you want to be rural by design, you really need to stay away from those minimum lot sizes, because it really makes open spaces in people's backyards where you can't see them. And if you allow more the overall density standard that you're looking for, then it allows the developers to better design for beautiful amenities and open space. So when I work for private sector clients in another life, we really liked those density maximums instead of minimum lot size, because it allowed us to steer around some of those natural assets that we wanted to preserve and maybe make the houses a little bit closer together in the front yard, but then they had beautiful shared amenities. And so you look at the two types of developments that you get when you have minimum lot size versus maximum density, and you'd be shocked at the difference in development type. So if we're looking at rural by design, which I think is going to play well here, then minimum lot size is probably not going to result in the development that you're looking for long term, in look and feel. But, I think some of those visuals are helpful as we go through the process so that you guys can see for yourself and, make those decisions and figure out which direction you want to head.
I think that leaves it open for like connecting green spaces, that we can have more mobility throughout McLendon-Chisholm with places that connect that are not necessarily on, on a road, but like
Yeah.
on a walking path or something like that, or a biking path.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. I think that's something that I would want the community to see also
Yeah.
on the boards or community forum or something like that, because if you want to talk about going away from minimum lot size and going to a maximum density instead, I think that's going to be an educational process. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm open to it. I'm interested what that looks like. But I think that we would want our citizens to know that too. So hopefully that's something they could see.
It's very much education, because to your point, what attracts people to McLendon-Chisholm, and I feel like we all would feel confident with this, is the rural feel. And most of our homeowners recognize we have to have growth. We have to bring in healthy business.
It's going to urbanize whether you want it to or
Exactly.
not. It's just,
So
yeah.
I think everybody gets that. There's a lot of debate of what's right, what's wrong, and so, hence the reason we're engaging in this process. But we've heard, just in our part, when we do have the public forums, this demand of, we committed to 1.5 acres, to Lisa's point. And, as we talked about last time, what is the real difference between an acre and a half to an acre, and visually, and, when we're adopting these green spaces and you know, it's an opportunity to really help people, you said it, Sherry said it, of visualizing what the gains are for that, because I think by and large, nobody's here in absolute. It's like, what makes sense and what do the residents, what are they asking for, and where do we meet in the middle with all of that? So that education element is going to be really important as you're communicating out what that vision, what some of those options could be for them.
And to Mr. Tucker's point about the comments about the survey, that's one of the reasons why, especially on housing, we like to save that for the community forum, so that we're not just asking a question without some of that context and the ability to show visuals and the ability to let people kind of collaborate on the more detailed nuances of housing. And so that's one of those things that is on our radar here for the community forum, is having those housing conversations and really being able to show people visuals and stuff that a survey, you know, at a 10-minute design is pretty limiting.
As this process goes along and a survey goes out, is there going to be real-time updates so we can see the percentage of surveys, you know, that we've gotten back or something like that, so that we can know that we need to beat the bushes a little bit and get people out there to take the survey?
I would say beat the bushes regardless, but
well, I will
you know,
be,
it's going to
but
be
I
a
mean-
quick. It's going to be a quick burn. So you know, 3 weeks. We can provide weekly updates, maybe if that works. But you know, if we get to that minimum 2%, and we know that we can kind of get more, you know, I think that's good. But I don't know if that works. But weekly updates you could send out. Yeah, but
What's
It kind of rally.
What's the most percent you've ever gotten back on a community survey like this?
I'm not going to answer that. I don't want y'all to feel like you're lower, you know, because
Yeah.
2% is the minimum we like to see. But I will say that sometimes it is higher.
Okay.
Yeah. But 2% is our level, our bar for success.
You're ready for competition.
Yeah.
And I don't want y'all to be disappointed if it's 2%. Like
Now,
it's
is this per household or per individual, or?
based on your population.
But I mean, so population, so like 2 people in a household could fill out the survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me and my husband
I
have
might have
very,
different, yeah,
very
ideas
different
than my
views.
husband.
Opposites attract, as they say. But you should expect also, you know, on that survey for females to take the survey more often than males. So sometimes we'll get over 50% females, 66% females, and what we know from surveying best practices is oftentimes females will take the survey on behalf of the household. So, you know, there's certain things that we're looking for.
Any questions?
So a couple of things. One is, I think we're coordinating on Cpac. Are we going to talk about that? Okay.
Go ahead.
So Cpac, we need a couple reps for Cpac. And then the second thing is sharing the word about the survey. Save the date for this community forum, getting people pumped up, because it is, you know, it doesn't come around that often. It's exciting, and just encourage people to be collaborative and watch the website and just be involved. But you guys are really key ambassadors to the process, so just keeping in that ambassador role and exhibiting that leadership and say, come on, we're going to the community forum together. Or online, I'm not sure. I think we're...
And you may have watched the council meeting or heard kind of the result of that, but what we're looking at for next week is a special meeting. Likely it's going to be on the 1st. That's what we're aiming for. We're just making sure we can get everybody there. But we're looking at nominations and forming that Cpac committee. So if anyone here is interested, if you'll submit your names, just to staff is fine, and we will make sure that you are on the list. And then council will ultimately appoint members, but we do want to make sure that we have a couple of you from P&Z on there, if at all possible, as long as your schedules can accommodate those meetings. But if you're interested, any of you, just submit your names and we'll add it to the list. Also, stakeholders, I'm working to identify those. So we're looking at maybe a school board member, or not necessarily school board, but a representative from RISD. Other people that may have an interest in the area for one reason or another, but may not necessarily be a resident. Perhaps they have a business here or something else. So if you think of a great idea and maybe I haven't, and feel free to pass on either a name and or an organization I might want to tap into, but I've got to do that one very, very quickly. She actually interviews, or her staff, those stakeholders, and they're fairly lengthy interviews. So she's lining up those time slots now. So the sooner we can, and council's kind of giving me a little bit of leeway on passing that along, but I'm certainly, I welcome the input. So if you have an idea of either a person or an organization, if you could get it to me really quickly, then we can kind of look at what we have to work with and we'll get that put together.
And the process is going to feel fast. Comp plan by September is ambitious, so it's going to feel fast, but to the community, we're looking at their engagement on the survey, their engagement at that community forum, and then let's review the draft concepts and highlights. So hopefully it won't feel as fast to the community at large.
Do we have dates for the Cpac meetings so that people can know if they can commit?
April 12th is what we talked about for the first one. So if you're not available April 12th, maybe not, but I think just to keep us on schedule, we had to set a tentative date.
Is that going to be an evening meeting?
That's a Monday.
Is it a Monday? Yeah.
First, second Monday.
I think I wrote 6:30, and I just assumed because working folks, it would be a better time. Do you find, Abra, that you get better participation from things like community forums if you have them on the evenings or weekends, or?
For Cpac, we have the highest turnout on Fridays at 3. I don't know why. But, like they don't want to devote family time or something, so they just go from work early. I don't know. But they end up being at night on, 6:30 is when they're almost always are.
General public to come in for a forum?
For a forum, it's Thursday evenings or Saturday. We try to do kind of a mid slot that's like 10 to 2. That way, if you've got kids napping or something like that, you can go the morning, lunch, or afternoon, just hitting all those demographics that might be present. So 10 to 2-ish for a community forum is what we typically do on a Saturday.
I'm trying to visualize the community forum. So who's there gathering the feedback? So this is when people can come and there'll be boards and people can look at stuff. And how do they give their input at that meeting? Are there people from your staff who are gathering info? Okay.
Yep. Also, we encourage Cpac to be involved in that process. So if we can wrangle some Cpac members to stand at a couple of stations, we really like to do that, especially like the study area map, where people can try to find where they live and that type of thing. And then we debrief afterwards. So not only do we have specific like sticky notes at some of the stations or dots at some of the stations, then we also debrief as a group. We kind of write out our initial takeaways and then we meet just based on like verbal conversations with people. And I just listen to everything, just soak it all up.
Okay. One more, Abra. So,
Keep going.
as far as participation from various age levels, do you have activities or special things that maybe 5, 6, 7-year-old kids can chime in on, and all the way up to 99?
Yep, we have a kids design studio that kids have fun playing at. But, I tell this story that I was in a city, remains nameless, lesser city than McLendon-Chisholm. And, we were waiting on somebody to talk about passenger rail because it was coming up the corridor and whatnot. No adults talking about passenger rail. And this kid goes over to the kids design studio and starts drawing out a park system and libraries, and he draws a train track, but it's not with a train, it's with like a dart rail. And I said, what is that? And he tells me, we need to get a train where people can take to, the fair if they want. And he started going. Anyway, we actually use the kids' feedback because it's unfiltered. And it's sometimes better than the adult feedback. And lo and behold, 6 years later, that community is getting passenger rail. And so I still have that picture, and it's one of my favorite pictures. Anyway, so we have a kids design studio. What I find is that the adults camp out at the kids design studio, and they like to do the kid exercises too. So whatever, to each their own. If you want to color, you can color at the community forum.
I just find it, just myself personally, that, now that my kids are grown and all out of school, I maybe have lost touch a little bit about, what elementary kid age are into. I do have a granddaughter that, maybe what 10-year-olds are into, because I don't have one anymore, so I've kind of lost touch with what's the thing that's going on. So, I don't know, I just think it's neat to get that perspective from all different age ranges, whether it's teenagers or young adults that are, maybe about to leave home or coming back from college and trying to find their place.
We have a station called Ages and Stages, where we have like a board of for each kind of different age group, and just looking at what they might be looking for in the city. And so maybe that's something that would be nice here.
I know we've had discussions in the past about senior places to live, where what happens when you have these big lots and then suddenly you're a little bit older and mowing that yard is just too cumbersome anymore. And then we don't want people to pack up and leave. So what are some alternatives?
Yep.
Anything else? Is there anything else we need to?
I don't, not that I'm aware of. If you would, though, if you're interested and you think you can serve on Cpac, or if you have an idea for a stakeholder, I'll write you down now if you're interested, and I'll give that, put that as part of the list I've handed off to council next week. And then we'll certainly let you know if you're selected for that. But on the stakeholders, I'm trying to get that to her as quickly as possible, so if you can let me know by like tomorrow morning, if you think of anything or anyone.
Major property owners, neighborhood leaders, key movers and shakers in the community, old timers who have been here for decades, who have a lot of history, any of those. Good.
Okay, Shelley's going to jot your name down right now. Anyone else want to
Yeah,
chime in?
I would.
I would too.
Yeah.
You already have my name down.
Yes,
I say we talked about it 3 days ago.
so we have
Mondays
Sherry.
are the good days for me, and me.
And you, Jody?
Thank you.
Daniela, are you interested or? Okay. Put them on. All right. Thank you.
Exciting.
All right, so with that, we can move on to item 5.2, discussion and action regarding setting future meeting dates for upcoming agenda items.
We do have plats in April, so I think we were kind of looking at the 15th of April. Does that work for all of you?
It does not work for me.
It does
I
not?
already
Okay,
told
what
Shelley
about
that.
the 22nd? Oh, well,
You
we've got
can't,
early
yeah.
voting that week, so that's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, so Jody and I were talking, is there any possibility we can move this meeting to 7? Or is that too late?
To 7? I don't have an issue with it.
I mean, I don't know how you all feel, but because we were talking about, I mean, in general, that works better, but my conflict is from 6 to 7, so I would just be late if we moved the meeting to 7.
And Thursday, well, we're talking Wednesday. For me, Thursdays are our standing governing board meetings, which have a tendency to go late. That's why it's just, I'm like coming straight here from work, so 7 is nice, but it is what it is. It's not usually a conflict, but if it's gonna
Will
be,
the
that's
15th
why.
work if we move it to 7?
Yeah, I'll be late, but then I can get here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does
It
that
works
work
for
for
me.
everybody
Yep.
else?
So,
That's good for the rest of
Old
the
tax day.
Yeah, we
Oh,
can
no, it's
verify
getting
that
pushed out
everyone's
to May
filed their
6th.
taxes at that point.
Yeah.
Old tax day.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, That's what I was saying, it was the old tax day, like, you always remember.
I didn't know that, I already filed mine, that makes me mad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with that, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we adjourn at 7:28.
Now, this has been good because I ended up being the secretary of my HOA, and so I have to do all the minutes and stuff, and like learning parliamentary procedure, I'm like, I learned it from here.
Awesome. Hey, Lisa, as a question, so this forum that we're having on April 6th, if the survey is out by then, could we have hard copies of surveys? Could we have some signs out about taking surveys? Yeah? I mean, I think that's captive audience. You're gonna have a lot of people coming for that. Yeah, so that would be a great opportunity